I, 32F, am currently working as a general manager at an upscale restaurant that we opened last year. The journey of opening and running this place has been incredibly challenging but equally rewarding. We have an amazing team that works together seamlessly. Over time, we've all grown really close and often hang out outside of work too. This is important context for what I'm about to share. I met my boyfriend Nate through mutual friends at a party 2 years ago. He seemed perfect at first, caring, attentive, and supportive of my career. He understood the demanding hours of restaurant management and he even encouraged me when I was stressed about opening the new place. Our relationship was great until about 6 months ago when things started getting weird with one of my staff members. Steve has been with us since day one as our lead bartender. He's 26, professional, and honestly one of our best employees. He keeps strict boundaries with everyone and is known for his work ethic. The first incident happened during a particularly busy week. I had to make a quick supply run to the store, and my staff started chatting about their favorite snacks. This kind of casual conversation is normal during our prep time. One server asked for Cheetos, another wanted pickles, and Steve mentioned he was craving Reese's Cups. Being in a good mood and wanting to boost team morale, I decided to get everyone their requested snacks. When I returned, Steve saw the Reese's Cups in my hand and jokingly dropped to one knee saying he would marry me for bringing his favorite candy. Everyone including me burst out laughing at his silly reaction. It was clearly a joke and we all went back to work right after. Later that day, Nate came to visit me at work like he usually does. He likes to bring me coffee or just say hi during his lunch break. One of my servers, thinking it was still funny, told him about the snack run and mentioned Steve's joke proposal. That night, Nate interrogated me for hours about it. He said he found it extremely disrespectful that another man would propose to me, even as a joke, knowing I'm in a relationship. He said proposals are sacred and meaningful, and Steve was out of line. I tried explaining multiple times that it was just Steve being silly and meant absolutely nothing, but Nate wouldn't let it go. He kept asking if Steve had ever made similar jokes before, if he often tried to make me laugh, or if he gave me special attention at work. Since then, Nate has convinced himself that Steve has feelings for me despite there being zero evidence of that. He twists every normal workplace interaction into something suspicious. There was another incident where Steve's cousin visited the restaurant. When I approached their conversation, Steve immediately told me his cousin was interested in asking me out but he had already told him I was in a relationship. Instead of seeing this as Steve being respectful, Nate later claimed Steve was actually trying to gauge my interest for himself. The situations kept escalating. Last week, I had hurt my back trying to move some wine cases. Steve saw me struggling and offered to help carry them to my office. Nate happened to walk in right then and later accused me of being too close to Steve physically. He said I should have waited for him to visit me at work instead of letting another man help me. When I pointed out that Steve was the only person available at that moment and I needed the cases moved urgently, Nate said I was making excuses to spend time with Steve. Things have gotten so bad that Nate now gets upset if Steve even says hello to me or discusses work-related matters. During staff meetings, if I laugh at something funny Steve says, just like I laugh at everyone's jokes, Nate later questions me about it. If Steve comes to my office to discuss inventory or scheduling, Nate thinks he's making excuses to see me. He wants me to minimize all interaction with Steve outside of what's strictly required for work, but in a restaurant environment, that's nearly impossible. The tension is affecting my workplace now. Steve has noticed Nate's cold behavior towards him and feels uncomfortable. Other staff members have also picked up on the situation. Some have even started volunteering to interact with Steve instead of letting him come to me directly, which is ridiculous because he's one of my managers and we need to communicate regularly. What makes this even more frustrating is that Nate has absolutely no reason to be insecure. In our 2 years together, I've never given him any cause to doubt my faithfulness. I'm always honest about my whereabouts, I share stories about my day, and I've even tried including him in staff gatherings so he feels more comfortable with everyone. My friends think Nate is being controlling and unreasonable. They've seen how his jealousy has affected me over the past months. I'm constantly walking on eggshells, worried about how he'll interpret normal workplace interactions. We've had countless arguments about this, each lasting hours, and I'm emotionally drained from defending innocent situations. I love Nate but his behavior is starting to make me question our relationship. The constant accusations and arguments are taking a toll on my mental health. I can't focus properly at work because I'm always worried about how Nate might interpret different situations. Even my staff has started acting differently around me when Nate is present, which is affecting our previously relaxed and efficient work environment. I don't want to give up on our relationship, but I also can't keep living with this constant suspicion and drama. How do I make him understand that his jealousy is baseless and damaging our relationship? Is there any way to fix this situation, or am I fighting a losing battle? Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since my original post, and unfortunately, things have only gotten worse. Remember how I mentioned we have an amazing team at the restaurant? Well, there's someone else I need to tell you about, Mike, our beverage director. Mike and I have known each other for 10 years, since we worked together at another restaurant. He's married to Sarah, has 2 beautiful kids, and his whole family has been a big part of my life. Mike is the kind of person who lights up any room he enters. He's emotionally intelligent, great with people, and incredibly affectionate with everyone he considers close. He hugs instead of handshakes, gives his friends kisses on the cheek, and makes everyone feel valued. His wife Sarah is exactly the same way. They're just warm, loving people who treat their friends like family. Last night was our restaurant's 1-year anniversary celebration. The whole team was there with their partners and families. Mike and Sarah came with their kids, and of course, Nate was there too. Everything was going great until Mike greeted me with his usual hug and kiss on the cheek, just like he greeted several other female friends and coworkers. When we got home, Nate completely lost it. He started yelling about how inappropriate Mike's behavior was and how disrespectful it was to our relationship. I tried explaining again that Mike is like a brother to me, that he's happily married, and that this is just how he shows affection to people he cares about. But Nate wouldn't hear it. Then he brought up New Year's Eve. We had just successfully pulled off a huge event at the restaurant, and at midnight, everyone was celebrating. Mike had kissed Sarah, then hugged me and gave me 3 quick kisses on the forehead before moving on to hug and celebrate with the rest of the staff. According to Nate, this was completely unacceptable because only he should be kissing me in any way. The argument got really heated when Nate demanded I tell Mike to stop being physically affectionate with me. He said if I truly loved and respected him, I would set this boundary. I refused because there's absolutely nothing inappropriate about Mike's behavior. He treats all his close friends this way, male and female, and Sarah has never had an issue with it. What really shocked me was what happened next. Nate pulled out his phone and showed me a list he'd been keeping. He had documented it every single time Mike had hugged or kissed me over the past year. Each incident had a date, location, and detailed description. For example, January 15th, Mike hugged her and kissed her cheek when he arrived at work, and March 23rd, Mike hugged her for 3 seconds too long after the wine tasting event. I was horrified. Who keeps track of things like this? The level of obsession and paranoia required to maintain such a list is frightening. When I expressed my shock, Nate defended himself, saying he needed evidence of Mike's inappropriate behavior. The final straw came when Nate suggested that something must be going on between Mike and me since we spend so much time together at work. He said it's suspicious that Mike and I often stay late for inventory or wine tastings. I was furious. Mike is our beverage director, of course we have to work closely together. Not to mention he's been happily married for years and we've all been friends for a decade. Nate then brought up how Mike sometimes touches my arm when we're talking, or how we share inside jokes from our years of friendship. He said it was emotionally cheating even if nothing physical was happening. When I pointed out that Mike is equally affectionate with everyone and that Sarah is completely comfortable with it, Nate accused me of gaslighting him. I ended up leaving his place and driving home. Since then, he's been calling and texting nonstop. His messages swing between angry accusations and tearful apologies. He keeps saying he's just trying to protect our relationship, and that I'm being unreasonable by not respecting his feelings. But I'm starting to see his behavior for what it really is, controlling and toxic. The list on his phone especially scared me. It shows a level of obsession and paranoia that I never noticed before. Now I'm wondering what else he might be documenting or monitoring without my knowledge. My head is spinning trying to process all this. How did we get here? How did normal, friendly interactions become such a source of conflict? I'm caught between wanting to save my relationship and recognizing that Nate's behavior is becoming increasingly problematic. I don't know what to do anymore. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I've made some deeply disturbing discoveries about Nate. After our fight about Mike, I started paying more attention to patterns in Nate's behavior and began talking to friends about their experiences with him. What I learned has completely changed my perspective on our relationship. My friend Emma reached out to me last week with some concerning information. She revealed that about 3 months ago, Nate had messaged her on Facebook asking detailed questions about my past relationships and male friends. He wanted to know if I had ever cheated in previous relationships, if I had close male friends before him, and if I had ever been too friendly with coworkers. Emma felt uncomfortable with his questions and didn't respond, but she wasn't the only one he contacted. Another friend, Rachel, told me Nate had cornered her at a party when I wasn't around and grilled her about my relationship with Steve and Mike. He tried to make it seem casual, but his questions were clearly aimed at finding evidence of inappropriate behavior. Rachel said she had felt uneasy about the conversation but wasn't sure if she should tell me. What really opened my eyes was discovering that Nate had been secretly visiting the restaurant on days he knew I wouldn't be there. One of my servers, Lisa, finally told me that he would sit at the bar for hours, watching how Steve and Mike interacted with female staff. He would ask subtle questions about workplace dynamics, trying to gauge if their behavior with me was different from how they treated others. Lisa said she had noticed this happening at least once a week for the past few months. The most shocking revelation came from Sarah, Mike's wife. She called me yesterday and told me something that made my blood run cold. Nate had reached out to her expressing concern about Mike and my relationship. He sent her a long message detailing all the times he had seen Mike hug or kiss me, suggesting that this behavior was inappropriate even among friends. He even mentioned specific dates and times, probably from that creepy list he keeps on his phone. Nate tried to plant seeds of doubt in Sarah's mind, implying that Mike and I spent an unusual amount of time together at work and that our friendship seemed suspiciously close. He asked her if she was really comfortable with her husband being so physically affectionate with another woman. Sarah, being the amazing person she is, saw right through his manipulation and told me immediately. She was worried about his attempt to create problems in both relationships. When I confronted Nate about all this, his response was chilling. Instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, he defended his actions, saying he was just trying to protect what's his. Those words made my skin crawl. I realized this man didn't see me as his partner, he saw me as his possession. Looking back now, I can see all the red flags I missed. How he slowly tried to isolate me from male friends by making me feel guilty about normal interactions. How he turned innocent situations into suspicious activities. How he made me doubt my own judgment about appropriate workplace behavior. How he tried to make me feel responsible for his insecurities. I've decided to end things with Nate. This isn't just about jealousy anymore, it's about control, manipulation, and a disturbing pattern of obsessive behavior. I deserve better than constantly defending normal friendships and workplace relationships. I shouldn't have to worry about my boyfriend secretly monitoring my interactions or trying to turn my friends against me. The hardest part is realizing how blind I was to all of this. I kept making excuses for his behavior, thinking if I just explained things better or set clearer boundaries, he would understand. But now I see that no amount of explanation would have fixed this, because the problem wasn't with my behavior, it was with his need for control. I'm sharing this update partly because I need to process everything that's happened, but also as a warning to others. Sometimes controlling behavior creeps up so slowly that you don't notice it until you're already deeply entangled. I'm grateful to my friends for being brave enough to tell me the truth, and I'm ready to move forward without Nate in my life. Update 3. It's been 6 months since I broke up with Nate, and I wanted to share a final update about everything that happened after. The breakup wasn't easy at all. Nate showed his true colors in ways I never expected. At first, he tried the emotional manipulation route. He showed up at my apartment crying, saying he would change and get help for his jealousy issues. When that didn't work, he switched to angry accusations and threats. He said he would expose me for having inappropriate relationships at work and ruin my professional reputation. For weeks after our breakup, he would show up at the restaurant unannounced. Sometimes he would sit at the bar for hours, watching me interact with staff. Other times he would demand to talk, causing scenes that made customers uncomfortable. He sent multiple emails to our company's corporate office claiming there was inappropriate behavior happening between staff members. He even tried to contact our HR department with false accusations about Mike and me. Thankfully, my boss knows me well and has seen my professional conduct over the past year. He didn't take Nate's accusations seriously and actually helped me document all of Nate's harassing behavior. This turned out to be crucial later. Things escalated when Nate started following me home from work. He would park outside my apartment building and wait for hours. My neighbors reported seeing him trying to look into my windows. The final straw was when he tried to break into my apartment one night when he thought I was home with someone else. In reality, I was working late at the restaurant. I had to get a restraining order after that incident. The police got involved, and all the documentation from work helped prove the pattern of harassment. They found some disturbing things on his phone, including hundreds of photos he had secretly taken of me at work and detailed notes about my daily schedule and interactions. The whole experience taught me valuable lessons about recognizing controlling behavior early on. I now see how he slowly isolated me from friends, made me doubt my judgment, and tried to control my professional relationships. The red flags were there from the beginning, I just wasn't ready to see them. My work relationships are stronger than ever now. Steve and Mike were incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. Steve even walked me to my car every night during the worst of Nate's stalking behavior. Mike and Sarah regularly checked on me and made sure I never felt alone during this time. The restaurant team really came together to support me. They would alert me if they saw Nate hanging around outside, and some even gave statements to the police about his harassing behavior. It showed me that the family we built at work is more real and valuable than I realized. I'm sharing this final update to show others that it's okay to trust your instincts. If someone makes you constantly defend normal friendships and work relationships, that's not love, it's control. If they try to isolate you or monitor your behavior, those aren't signs of caring, they're red flags for abuse. I'm in a much better place now, free from the constant suspicion and drama that consumed my life for so long. The restraining order is still in place, and Nate finally seems to have backed off. I'm focusing on my career and enjoying my workplace relationships without guilt or fear. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, even when it's hard. I'm just glad I did it before things got even worse.